you don't see someone with a mask, it's because he's right behind you. Welcome to the show, everybody.
What an introduction.
What an introduction.
We're back.
Do not let the cat in Purvis's frame confuse you. This is the For All the Dogs review.
Are we happy about this? We're not happy.
We're not happy about this. I just feel like cat lovers get a lot of love and dog fans don't, but this is what we get, and it sucks. I showed it to my sister's dog, and he was confused and unhappy.
All he needs is a Griselda beat, and he's just going to be laying there. That's all he needs. He's good.
Dude, cats, that would be a great lo-fi channel. Like one of those channels that just goes by. Cats with Griselda beats.
Cats with the Griselda beats. Honestly, it'll be on 24/7 for him.
Dude,
I used to leave lo-fi on for him when I first got him.
Dude, I would definitely do that for my dog. I would leave the Griselda playlist you gave me just on for my dog. I'd be like, all right, Mushroom.
24/7.
We're going to have Gabby, my parents' dog, for a week.
Yeah? Nothing but Griselda?
Nothing but Griselda. Because...
Get him a chain.
Yeah, it's a she.
Oh, get her
Which
chain.
is great, because so is Griselda Blanco.
There you go. It just makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, we're back. We are back. The heroes are coming home. It's been a while since it's been just you and I.
Just since you and I.
Yeah.
Jazz went 9 whole months without missing an episode. Yeah, but he's in Paris right now. He's with the fellas.
I'm not mad at him. He wants to recreate the video with A$AP Rocky and Tyler. What's the name of the song? Anyway, but yeah, that's what he's going to be doing. So hopefully we get an extra video of that.
Yeah,
I would actually love for that. Yeah.
Well, all right, but yeah, we have a meaty review this week because Jazz did not leave us any notes about what he thought about this album.
Surprising.
Yeah, surprising. He doesn't do the extra work.
No, he just hates Drake, which I'm not mad at him for this time.
There's some of his Drake hating. By the way, if he watches this, hi. There's some of his Drake hating that is like, it's like Drake doesn't have a rap sheet for beating women though.
And there's other people that do.
X and Cardi do. Like
this is true. Pick your poison.
Yeah, pick your poison.
But yeah, we're gonna be reviewing Fat D, aka For All the Dogs.
Is that what you're calling it? I'm not. I refuse to call it that.
I saw it once on Twitter.
For All the Dogs is a good title.
It is a good title. I'm not mad at it at all.
Yeah.
But we will also be doing El Sweatshirt's album.
Oh yeah, fuck! I forgot that we were gonna do that. Yeah, hell yeah.
We are gonna be doing that.
I only listened to it like twice, but okay.
I'm around the same
because I had to listen to For All the Dogs like 3 times.
We'll do Earl Sweatshirt first since it's shorter.
Yeah. All right,
and it's not.
Do we want to run through the albums released this week? Seems
Brandon,
like
just say it.
Boom, 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 boom. West Side Gun and Then You Pray for Me. Album of the year contender.
We have been waiting for this. I'm very excited. Very excited.
Pray for Paris is so good. It took me a while to warm up to Pray for Paris, like about 2 years ago when I started getting into West Side Gun. But man, in the last year it's grown on me, and I am so excited for a sequel album. So I'm here. This sounds great. Friday the 13th release. Hell yeah!
It just makes sense,
dude. I'm always after 10 and 8 side B. I'm just always going to associate West Side Gun releases with October now. It's
October, man. October's own.
October's very own Alvin. But
yeah,
do you want to run over the rest of them?
Absolutely. We also have Chief Keef coming out with Almighty Soul 2. Yeah. We have a huge release of Bad Bunny. I don't know how to say the name, and I'm not going to try because I'm not Drake.
Me vas a saber la cual iba a pasar mañana.
Something like that. I should know what that means.
I don't. I can't read Spanish.
I used to be able to, but I'm not going to embarrass myself. We also have Gucci Mane coming out with...
You're not a first generation. Like...
Well, okay, yeah. It's more embarrassing for you. I'll give you that. We have Gucci Mane coming out with Breath of Fresh Air. We have Kim Carson coming out with A Great Chaos. We have Mike, someone who was featured on our Sweatshirts album, coming out with Burning Desire.
That
And
could be
then
fun.
that is going to be a lot of fun, in my opinion. I'm sure we'll hear a lot of sounds that we're familiar to. Some producers, I'm sure, are part of Griselda and other people like that. And also, the second biggest release, in my opinion, we have Offset. I've actually been
That's
waiting for
definitely
this for a
that's
while.
definitely a second biggest release.
Absolutely.
I'm a big Migos fan. Uh, I've been kind of lukewarm on Offset's solo work.
Okay.
I love the album he did with Metro Boomin and 21 Savage.
Yes.
Without Warning, that one's sick. But
besides that,
so just like coming off the run Westside has, that's just where my heart is for this week. But yeah, Offset, I'm very excited for too.
honestly, I have higher hopes for Offset than this album, which is saying a lot, in my opinion.
No.
And then going on to the actual news, we don't have a lot to cover.
Yeah, we're also recording on Wednesday this week. Do you want to tell them why?
Yes, because one of the news segments, we're going to see Thundercat tomorrow. He's going to be at the Salt Shed. I'm very excited to finally go to that venue, and it's going to be a vibe. It's going to be a very relaxing show, in my opinion.
We'll see, because like Thundercat, either it's like a very relaxing vibe, or he brings out a million famous people. So we'll see which one we get. So I'm very excited. I love Thundercat. I've loved him since To Pimp a Butterfly. Thundercat. Anyway, but yeah, no, I'm very excited for that. You want to talk your boy?
Yeah. Travis Scott is
your other boy.
That one, I don't know. Can we still claim him?
You do.
Do I?
You love Kanye. You text me all the time.
Kanye, Brandon?
Like, I
love Kanye. That's the message that we're gonna push out. This is worse than the other news. Yeah, we can actually start there because I don't want to go too deep into it. But rumors have been transforming into confirmations almost. Kanye West will be performing at the RCF Arena. Surprise or not surprisingly, apparently one of the biggest venues in Europe. It is in Italy for a listening party. Okay. So yeah.
Well, he did have to go where fascism was created.
What can you do? He's back.
Yeah.
He is back.
Do you have any hope for this?
Hope?
Yeah. For this album being good.
That's tough. Kind of. Like, I hope it's good. I don't hope it's garbage. Because then I'll feel like it's wasting everyone's time.
I mean, I feel like it's wasting everyone's time by him just releasing it, knowing who he is and what he's done.
That is also true.
So I feel like we're already at a waste of time. My thing is, like, obviously, like, sure, I guess better music is always better. But I'm like, I really hope the universe is rectified by him just dropping his biggest stinker. Like, I really hope, like, we get, like, a period on the end of this story, because I just can't do this anymore.
You just want it to be absolute garbage.
Well, one, like, I feel like the faster he slips into irrelevancy, the more, the faster I can go back to enjoying the music I have an emotional connection to, regardless of the man, right?
Okay.
Because let's face it, like, that moment is going to happen. And, like, no one likes to say this in normal world. In, like, critical theory art classes, you'll hear this sentiment all the time to, like, people from a straight face. But, like, in the normal world, no one likes to say it. But, like, it's when he dies. Like, when he dies is going to be the moment where it's like, okay, now you can go back and, like, listen to it because he's not alive to finance, right? Although I think there's a genuine question of, like, you know, if you're streaming his music on Spotify, are you really supporting him? They don't pay people. Like... Like yeah. Shout.
Okay.
Right, but I just want to be rectified. I just want the universe to be correct. For like once.
the correct universe is Kanye West dropping a terrible
after this because like, and like who's working with him, right?
Only person I know is Ty Dolla $ign, which means nothing. But
yeah, he's a hired guy.
You want a name? That is a name.
I do like Ty Dolla Sign, and that bothers me because, like, I feel like it's almost like a picket line. Like you can't validate him.
The other thing is, there's people that owe Kanye, and I don't know how loyal some of them might be. So I don't know who else is on this, and we might eventually find out.
My thing is
It's
that,
just,
like, is it loyalty though? Like,
I don't know what you want to call it. I mean,
that's
what do
the
you
thing.
want to
Like,
call
I don't know.
it?
I don't know what you would call it, but I don't think it's loyalty to stand by someone who you should, by very clear
I
cut moral
understand
measures,
that.
right?
I'm not
be
saying they should
removed.
do it. I'm just saying
I'm
there's
just
people
saying.
that owe
Listen,
Kanye.
listen,
I'm not
listen, listen.
like
I'm a
I'm
word
not giving
person.
them a
I'm a
pass.
word person. I'm all about the words, right? I'm about words. I'm like, what does this specific word mean? And I'm just
Yes,
saying,
I know, I
is
know.
this
This is the second
loyalty,
time this podcast.
or is it or is it fanaticism? Is it, an inability to think critically about your place in the world? Are those more accurate descriptors? I don't know.
You can say whatever you want to say, Brandon.
It's my podcast, our podcast, mostly your
It-
podcast. Like, you're the one with the point
by,
one. Like,
by legal percentage, I am the dominant force. But no, it's gonna happen, and I feel like saying hope is me wishing negatively, and like I don't know, it's whatever. But moving on. The other person that we were gonna bring up, my other boy,
yeah.
Travis Scott, right now. Well, Brandon, start off with the article because this is a good article, and I feel like
Oh,
it'll
I'll
get
put
to
it.
the
I'll put it in. I don't have it. I forgot that we were going to talk about this tonight because I forget that I run a hip hop show. But I don't have it pulled up. But
no. I was just you read it though.
yeah, I read
Give
the.
a
So there was a
summary.
very fascinating article talking about the economics and secondary markets of tickets, which I think has
Mhm.
been like in the zeitgeist this year with
Okay.
Taylor Swift. Like, there was a call on Congress to like regulate secondary markets and everything. Uh, and and I think the thing is, like, this is very good news for the most part,
Mhm.
because what's happening is Travis Scott sold out the Utopia tour, but what happened was, a certain percentage of those tickets went to fans. We bought our tickets at face value, right? But a I don't want to say a majority, but probably something like, I think 40% of
Probably
like
a majority.
a huge amount,
Yes.
whether it's a majority or not, went to resellers, right? As what happens, this is not specific to Travis Scott. This is just
Going
how
on for forever.
concerts. No, it's actually a fairly recent development, because there used to be like rules, policies, both internally in these companies and like by government, preventing things like that. So this actually is like in the last 10, 15 years. This is not like a forever thing.
I will say, as long as I've been buying concerts, at least. Let me correct
Sure, but
myself.
you're very young.
Right.
Like, you're very young in the, like, when we're talking about markets and economics, you're like,
Right.
it's not a very long time. So, and it's been in his like, guys. Basically, what happened is, like, the resellers who are for Travis Scott misunderstood the demand for the Utopia tour, and they are unable to sell the tickets at profitable prices for them. Which is good, because fuck those people. Those
Very
people
good.
suck. They're if you have ever resold anything, you kind of suck. If you have ever bought anything,
In mass
if you have ever bought
quantities with that purpose.
no, if you have ever no, I disagree. If you have ever bought anything that someone would have an emotional connection to, and for the
Oh, just
distinct
to resell, yes.
for the distinct reason to just resell it at a profit, you're a shitbag. Like, it's just an unjust system on top of an unjust system. No one talks about how these people make like $800 on a pair of shoes, sewn together by Asian slaves, um, who are also children. Like, so there's that. But basically, what's happening is, because they misunderstood that demand, the tickets are throttling in price, right? Which is good. That means a lot of Travis Scott fans are going to be able to go see this show for like a reasonable price. And I always think that is a good thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Whether you're Rage Against the Machine and it's part of your tour deal to like have a certain amount of tickets be locked at $30. Whether it happens this way, I always think it's a positive thing. And I also don't think this is like a mark against Travis per se. I just feel bad that he's going to be. There's a solid chance that if if in some of these markets, like there's just isn't the demand. They talked about Kansas City, which has like a fraction of the population of Chicago, but the stadium has like 40% more seating, right? Or the stadium he's going to be performing at, right? Because it's not Arrowhead; it's like it's their basketball stadium.
Okay.
Right. So like in those areas, like the idea is like even at these rock bottom prices, they're not going to be able to move all these tickets. So the internet's going to have a field day of Travis Scott performing to like if it looks at all like he's performing to an empty stadium, like that's just
let's say even in the slightest.
Which I don't think will happen. Especially not in like where we're at. Like I would fully anticipate the United Center to be packed, because we live in such a big city, right? But it is like a reckoning for this whole phenomenon of people selling tickets explicitly for making money on the secondary market, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so fuck them. I hope they all die. And a revolution now, like
we're gonna fit it in there somewhere.
Yeah. I feel like this is like one of the most appropriate places I have ever put revolution now.
That is fair.
I feel like this is
we are all a part of the revolution.
I mean, like this is about like markets and stuff, like
right. No, I know,
and that is what we will see.
I mean, no, I fully agree with all this. I just don't know. My only worry is I don't know how it's going to translate to bigger artists that actually can, like.
I think, yeah, and I think. Well, the thing is that I think, and I've told you because we talked about this a little bit before we got on, and the thing that I think is interesting, and I don't want to get into it now, but like, this phenomenon, this is not something that's exclusive to Travis Scott. I think some people think it is because he's bought into like the secondary hype beast culture of like streetwear and shoes and all that shit. But like, right. But like, this is a thing that is happening across genres, for musicians performing live of anything, of any kind. Taylor Swift, this was a huge thing, right? But like, the rock bottom prices for Taylor Swift were quadruple digit, had a fucking comma in them, like, like let's keep it real, like
I mean, it's true.
Yeah, like
you're not wrong.
Beyonce day one, like day of, like the idea being that as the events get closer, you have to sell it at a lower and lower price in order to just not take an absolute zero. Like the I was sitting at my seat in Soldier Field for Beyonce. I looked up how much like the seats in the area were going for. They were going for like triple what we paid for them, right? This is a thing that happens with artists of all shapes and sizes. It happened with Drake. If you go to any show, unless you are someone who is like flooding the market with tickets, right? This is a phenomenon that happens.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that because when we did go to Drake, there were empty seats around us, low key.
Yeah, not a ton, but like
not a ton, but there were space.
Yeah,
there's space.
And the thing is that like this level of like rush to the bottom, selling tickets for $10, $18, which once again is good and based to the actual Travis Scott fans who buy it and go. Right. That just didn't happen. Like this is unique, right? And I think like the question is like, why is it unique? Are we at a breaking point? Possibly. But I think it also could have to do with like Travis as like an entity. I just think that there's been and this is the thing I've been saying ever since you got me onto Travis. I'm like, I think he is significantly less popular than certain groups of people think he is. Like his core fan thinks he is. And I think the reality is like, is he the kind of artist that should be performing at the United Center? I gotta keep it real with you. Like after seeing Run the Jewels at the Salt Shed, like I wonder if something like that would be a superior experience because for the people going, you know? Yeah, it's a lot less people. Yeah, it's a lot less tickets. Yeah, there's a lot less prestige and profit
Mm.
margin. But like Travis Scott show, you know, is that something you want to have the majority of your audience sitting in seats and balconies for?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, you
All right.
know. Uh, so that's my thought on it. You know, I think like there's a reason it's happening to Travis, and I think there's a reason it's happening at all.
Mm.
And the only way we can get out of it is by seizing the means of production and
It's
bringing
time for a revolution.
revolution now. That's what I
There's a
always
revolution
say.
all around the world.
We're not going to talk about that.
Oh yeah, Jesus.
Yeah,
Didn't even mean to get towards
yeah,
that.
we're not talking about
We are
that.
dating ourselves.
We are
It is
just.
October.
If you wanted to know,
October
like,
2023.
if you want to know what
5 years from now, we're gonna look at this episode, October 2023.
Yeah,
Look it up.
Yeah, if you want to know like where the line is on this show, Google what's going on in the news at the same time as this episode. Like,
That is what we won't cover.
yeah, yeah, like that's. If you want to see us, if you want to know where the line is, this is the week. Like,
You think we're unhinged now?
no, this is like this is like oh my god, are you ready for like a deep cup comics?
Oh boy.
This is like there's
How
a
much
in
are we
like
gonna have
this,
to cut?
and like no, this is not a cut.
Okay.
No. It's like there was a there's like an old comic where like Marvel and DC collaborated and they did like universe crossovers, right?
Mm.
And it was Captain America and Batman. And one of the things was the Red Skull tricked the Joker into working with him. And when the Joker learned that the Red Skull was a Nazi, he betrayed them because it was like, well, at least I'm not a fucking Nazi. It's like that's us. Like that's where we're at right now. It's like that's our line. We're just not gonna.
That is the line.
Yeah, like,
We will not cross that line. I'm glad to know we won't cross that line.
Yeah, we're not gonna talk about the Middle East.
Oh god. Do we want to do Earl Sweatshirt? We honestly.
I mean, let's talk about it. Let's just talk about it. Let's keep it loose.
Okay.
What did you Earl Sweatshirt and the Alchemist's Void Year, which
Yes.
I extremely liked.
Okay.
I don't know if it shook my top three. My top three of this year have been like pretty solid.
Okay.
I don't think it shook my top three, but it definitely shook up my top five. You know, and the thing is, despite the song I'll be recommending later, I'm not the biggest Earl Sweatshirt fan in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I am a huge Alchemist fan though, and maybe it was just the experience of like listening to an album for the producer, because that's just not usually how I go into it. You know, there are definitely artists who I go there because they're the producer, but those artists are typically also rappers. Whether it's a Kanye, whether it's a Travis, whether it's an LP, you know, like that's or Big Crit, like all of those artists who are like my favorite producers are also rappers. This is different because like this is one of my favorite producers and he doesn't have a vocal presence. But still, I think like the like style of each of them just coalesced perfectly. Right.
I fully agree with that.
Yeah, this is absolutely a collab I would want to see more of. And I also feel like I love the title. I think I see the connection between the title and the content.
Mm-hmm.
So void year is a legal term, and it's like it's you present an argument to the judge outside of the presence of the jury. So like anything you say like won't sway the jury, but you also have less rules. So I like the idea that like it's like it's serious, but it's not that serious. Like I like that that's kind of like the vibe I think Vaudier gives. It's like it's serious, but it's not that serious. And and I think as a ladder up, I would say that that's a great way to describe this. I just think the initial release for this was one of the worst things we've seen this year.
It did hurt a lot, absolutely. Because
The Alchemist does look like the kind of guy who loves NFTs, though.
That is unfortunately true. No, yeah, this has been available to the public technically for
I
several
listened to
weeks now.
some of the tracks because, like, to be fair, like you didn't have to buy it to listen to it. You
Yeah,
could
you
listen
did.
to it for free. So like I will give them that because like there have been artists whose name I don't know and are nowhere near as relevant as these two, but they would like sell NFT music and you had to buy the NFT to listen to it, right? Uh, yeah, right. This
What a
is,
time we went through. I'm glad that's
dude. I'm
pretty
glad
much
that's over. I'm, dude.
Jesus.
Aren't you happy we were right? And also, why don't
That's not the
you?
way I looked at it, but like, yeah.
Also, why don't you listen to me? I told
What do
you.
you mean?
I
I
told.
never even get into NFTs. What do you mean?
No, I mean like I told you that the 2020 election would end in an insurrection for years. You didn't believe me. I told you about the NFT
I
thing.
what?
You didn't believe me.
I've never. What are you talking about?
If you want to know why I'm like this is full of whiskey.
I was about to say, like, what do you mean? Are you making this all up?
No, by the way, everything I just said is true. Like,
Yes, we do have some outlandish takes here and there, and I'm glad this one was true.
yeah,
But
NFTs
no,
are
yeah,
bad. People who invest in them deserve to have their money stolen.
okay, you're insane. See that? That's where I draw the line. I don't want to wish ill will on somebody.
Well, I'm not saying they should be like killed. I'm
Just,
just saying,
just die.
No, I don't think they should die. I think they should lose all their money they put into this stupid thing. Like, I think there should be consequences for their actions.
The consequences are the financial.
That's what I'm saying. That's literally what I'm saying.
But yes, terrible launch, absolutely.
Yeah,
for this
terrible
album.
launch.
Not uncommon for the two people that are making this album, though.
Yeah. Apparently, they also have a secret album that's just on YouTube.
That yes, I know. You had to like search for it and find it, and people haven't discovered it. It's a very old sweatshirt thing. But anyway, I did listen to the album about 4 or 5 times because I realized that you can listen to it 3 times no matter one Drake album. But the first or second time I listened to it, it kind of fell off just because I wasn't in the right headspace due to the other album that we were listening to this week.
Yeah, I thought you were projecting.
No. But I will say it eventually came around to me. I noticed when music doesn't hit naturally, it is so difficult to get into hip hop because like something like this, I won't say is like lyrical miracle because like that has negative connotations with it, but I will say that it's very word heavy.
Yeah, no.
And it's hard to keep up with it at times.
Yeah, no. But like, isn't that what the point always was? Like, I get that hip hop should be allowed to grow and develop and not be constrained to that. Like, I get that, so that's true. But like, wasn't that like what this always was? Like, to me, this feels like a very traditional album in a way, despite its very bungled techno-futuristic launch, right?
What time period would you be referring to then in terms of like a traditional sense?
Like I think like the 80s or 90s. I specifically think like the 90s, like the Nas.
I was gonna say 90s.
The
I'll say the
Nas
90s.
era of like the super producer. Like the guy who made the one thing, like Nas Illmatic. Who was the guy who made that?
Okay.
Yeah, the guy who produced the whole thing. But
I like that take then. Yeah, I agree with the 90s for sure.
yeah.
It's interesting that you point that out though, because yeah, like we've said it many times on the podcast. Obviously, the biggest part in a hip hop album should be the lyrics. But once it naturally started flowing by my third or fourth listen, it's a very easy listen. Just throwing it out there. So if you want to throw it on in the background, it's very easy to get through for a drive, for playing a game, at work, whatever. And the lyrics start to flow. There's a lot of good punchlines in it. It is kind of, I don't want to say stagnant, but like the songs did kind of blur together at some points, but that also is due to just Earl Sweatshirt having one tone.
That's also,
and that's a style.
That's like that's also the Alchemist's style. Like that is like a thing he very vocally does is that he sees
Mhm.
albums as like one song, and like,
Right.
and I think that leads to success, right? I think that's why The Alchemist is on so many classics nowadays. I do think there's something to be said about like, is Earl Sweatshirt dynamic enough?
Yeah.
You know,
To make it
because
pop.
he's not like, I would totally understand if someone preferred Earl Sweatshirt to these artists, but like, he's not Freddie Gibbs. He's not Boldy James. You know, he doesn't have like I think like his style very much comes across like in the raw emotions of it.
Mm.
You know, right?
Yeah.
Like just like putting raw emotion into lyrics and like having everything come across as super authentic, which is great. Like I think that's super valid, but it's not a very dynamic sound.
Mm.
You know, it's very, for lack of a better phrase, monotone.
Yeah.
Uh, and I wonder if that's the best when The Alchemist is going to produce an album as if it's one large song.
Mm.
Uh, and yeah, like so. And the other thing is that I like that. Like I like when albums like are so smooth that like it almost sounds like one long track, right? I think like you can't go full Childish Gambino with it, but like you can. I think this is fine.
Make something nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with that. And it doesn't overstay its welcome either.
yeah,
Uh, I was thinking Earl Sweatshirt having kind of like a monotone wouldn't. It matches well with the Alchemist, obviously, as it has that one time or that one sound. But 26 minutes isn't too bad of it. So I can do it 26 minutes. But if it was something longer, I would have tapped out for sure. But speaking of something longer, should we get to For All the Dogs?
Oh, do we want to give this a grade real quick?
Oh, sure, yeah, we can do a
Yeah, I
grade
give this a
actually.
solid B.
Yeah,
I give this a
actually,
solid B, maybe B plus, because I think everything is like on point. I'm actually wondering if I'm talking to myself. I'm gonna say it could be plus, because like I do think everything could be a little bit more pronounced. I think there could be a little bit more depth to it. I think like the same way that I think like rage hype kind of rappers get so
mhm.
caught up in like the rage and hype that there's no substance there. I also think lyrical miracle rappers can get so caught up in punchlines and syllable schemes that there's no
It's like,
substance
what's
there.
even going on here?
And like the thing is that 20 years ago that was a more serious problem.
Mhm.
Like when you had artists like Tech Nine, that's like that whole problem. So like that's kind of my thing is that like I liked like the tone of it. I liked that there was the thinnest of concept to ladder up to,
Mhm.
but it didn't. I don't think it was at its fullest potential, and I don't think it had like a super strong emotional reaction to me, other than like just driving back from Sugar Records and being like, "This is sick."
Mhm.
This is a sick way to cruise down Ashland. Like,
That is true. I'll give you that. Yeah, I'm gonna stay around the B range for me, just because I've heard so much of Earl Sweatshirt. I know what an A album sounds like from him, and I didn't really get that vibe from this album. But I do think there's a lot of good content in there. I think it is one of those albums that is great to have on the list as an addition to your full discography. But at the same time, this could very easily be swept over by something else.
yeah, no,
But yeah.
definitely. So yeah, that's my thing. I probably am leaning B plus,
Mhm.
but yeah, that's where I'm going with this.
But okay,
Spoiler alert: the good album. Like,
it is the good album of the week.
yeah.
On
All right,
to
onto For All the Dogs.
I'm off the Drake hype fan.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
train has
Number
come
one
to it.
Drake fan, Purvis
At
Funches.
least on this podcast, I was the number one
Number
Drake
one
fan.
Drake fan in the world. He
All right,
invented
let's
the
not
idea
push.
of a drive-in Drake. Like,
I don't even I don't even know what that is. But anyway,
yeah.
um,
I see
I don't know
from the
what.
way you filled this out that you had a lot of feelings. So I want you to start this off
Yeah,
because it took
I
me
wasn't even,
almost a week to get through it.
which makes sense.
I
It's
did
a
I did
very long album.
eventually listen to the whole thing 3 times.
Okay.
And listen, there's a handful of tracks I'm going to be putting uh, on my you know, go-to playlist. But
Mm.
yeah,
Man, this is something else. I mean, definitely coming into it, I feel like out of the both of us, I definitely put the most time into it. I probably listened to it at least front to back, probably about 4 times. Um, I did not wake up at 6 to listen to this album because I'm not insane.
dude, when he was like, "When the rooster crows," I'm like, "Is this the Lord of the Rings? Release it at 11. This is a business." Like,
This is business. Just do it. No, yeah, I didn't wake up at all to listen
no,
to that. I waited till afterwards to listen to it. Um, Luckily enough, that day I had a long drive to downtown to go to a dinner on the north side, so I had ample time to get through this. Still didn't finish.
yeah. I'll
Good
tell
to
you.
say.
I'll tell you. First thing in the morning, I listen to First Person Shooter.
I'm not mad at you.
Yeah, I
That's
listen to
one of the
First
good
Person
songs.
Shooter. Right. I listened to the first song, which this should have been an indicator because I listened to the first song and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to the J. Cole song now, and and after listening to the whole thing, I was
Mhm.
like, that first song is one of the better songs. Like,
It is one of the better
yeah,
songs, which is
and yeah,
yeah.
I think other people's reaction to this I think are also very interesting to me,
Mhm.
uh, because I think we are kind of going to be a little bit more negative than like a lot of people that at least I listen to. That
Which is actually surprising in my opinion.
yeah, very
I thought
surprising.
yeah. I
There,
think that's also because we're being more critical as well.
you know what? Here's the thing: the people I'm talking like Christian Divine. He's a leftist TikTok and hip hop, you know, person. I've sent you his
Mhm.
stuff before. He's the one who did
Mhm.
that Chance bit where it was like how Chance raps on every album.
Mhm.
Uh, he was like, "Yeah, I don't really like it. It's still corny, but it feels like it's my favorite Drake album since you know, uh, the the one with the baby." And
One with the baby?
yeah, the not the baby, the album
Oh,
cover.
the nothing
The
was the
third
same,
one, nothing was the
I
same.
think.
Yeah, nothing was the same. If you're reading this, it's
Yeah.
too late. It gets us too confused. Sometimes I'm not looking at them.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
um, and like him, FD Singifier, they're all like, yeah, this is actually by far my favorite Drake in the streaming era, which is
yeah.
wild to
Mhm.
me because I was like, I don't know, her loss was pretty good. Like I
That
liked,
was pretty good.
I thought her loss was way better than this, even with that awful ass Megan bar.
Yes,
Yeah,
I do agree with that. It's interesting. I don't remember the influencer I was watching, but they did make a actually really good comment in my opinion. I feel like honestly, Nevermind and Her Loss, they are Drake albums, and he did release them as full titles, but it's definitely a side step
yeah,
to
they
what we
were,
normally get.
yeah, they were not typical.
Right.
That's totally
So
true. Yeah,
for
and
me, yeah, I was gonna say Her Loss is absolutely better. It clears night and day.
yeah, I 100%.
So
And like the thing is that like honestly, never mind. Even though like I think on a nuts and bolts level, I think this is a better album than Honestly Nevermind.
mm,
At least like Honestly Nevermind was fresh.
that is also true. Yes,
You know,
that is
like
true. It was a new look, even if it wasn't the best look. It
yeah,
was still something new.
yeah,
Um, so for me, my instant connection for all the dogs was Certified Lover Boy, and to me, because I actually it did enjoy Certified Lover Boy to a pretty good extent. This just feels like Certified Lover Boy 2, and it's just like the tracks that didn't make what was better, what was a better album in my opinion.
yeah,
Um, and the fact that it took so long to get through it, I ended up finding myself taking so much time trying to find the good in each song because, in my opinion, every song has something good in it, but overall, it just doesn't hold any weight. It doesn't mean anything. The message isn't really there for a lot of the songs, and I just don't even know what he's trying to accomplish.
yeah. No,
Um,
that's another thing is that like there's very little vision on this.
it's
Uh,
not.
so like when you listen, I find it interesting that we both, in a disappointing way, kind of because this reminds me a lot of Scorpion,
Okay,
and
yeah,
I think it's fair to say because Scorpion's my favorite of the streaming era Drake, not counting her loss,
it is.
which is clearly the best one. And Certified Lover Boy is clearly yours of the
And
Uh,
Scorpion's my least favorite,
yeah,
believe it or not.
to me, it reminds me of Scorpion, and I would say it almost feels like they EQ'd Scorpion because it feels like there are a lot higher lows. You know, like I think like the most annoying, the worst songs on this album, I don't think are anywhere near as annoying or half baked as like Ratchet Happy Birthday or the Tootsie
Yes.
Slide or some of those really low points on Scorpion that I always acknowledged were there. Right.
Hmm.
At the same time, I don't think the highs really reach a nice for what a God's Plan, a
I'm upset.
yeah, I'm upset. Yeah, all those.
Nonstop.
Yeah, nonstop.
Survival.
Yeah, like
The
all those
Mob
like
Ties. Let's go. It's a good album.
yeah,
Jaded.
yeah. So like it doesn't hit those highs, but it
Mm,
also doesn't get as low. So that's like what I say. Like it sounds like someone EQ'd Scorpion, at least for
mhm.
me, because like I think there are some bright spots on this album, but uh, uh, I do think, and I don't think there's as much filler as there has been on previous projects, but it's still there. It's
Oh yeah,
still
it's
absolutely
still
there.
absolutely good.
And Fantano said something about it I think is right in
Oh, I
that
watched it too.
yeah, where it was just like it seems like more strategically placed, right? It's more like spread out throughout the album,
Mm.
uh, and I think that's fair, right? Uh, but yeah, to me, it feels like this is just that. It's Scorpion with, you know, the worst tracks are nowhere near as annoying as the worst tracks. The best tracks are nowhere near as good. You know, and despite calling in some like really heavyweight features, you
He
know,
did call in a lot of heavyweight features.
you know, because
Absolutely.
like I J Cole and SZA I think are both S tier feature gets,
And both of those were long awaited. People have been
long
begging
awaited. Yeah,
for J. Cole to work with him and SZA to work with
yeah.
him.
Now, what did before we get to like we already talked about our reactions, but like what were you expecting this to be? And
Um,
don't say good. Like
Here's the thing. I feel like throughout the rollout, Drake has actually been. I don't want to say that he flat out just said this is supposed to be the old Drake, but that was the
he
expectation that
literally
was
said that
kind
at
of
the
given.
at the show we saw.
Did he say it at the show?
He literally did. He literally said, "Oh, Drake's coming back."
Okay, see now that pisses me off even more
Because
because
this
this is
is not.
nothing like the old Drake, and it's a rollout that
It's
didn't
not.
it.
I think I'm gonna push back a little bit on that, a little bit because I agree with you for the most part, right? I
Mm,
don't think it's old Drake because I think there's more effort in this than Scorpion and CLB and honestly Nevermind, but I don't think there's the same amount of effort as like Nothing Was the Same, Take Care.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so like I agree, but to a certain extent, I think it is old Drake in that it is kind of Drake with a few exceptions. Uh,
Okay,
kind of like living in the lane he created. I don't think he's chasing as many trends on this, right? And I don't think he's trying to start as many trends on this either, because that's where it really breaks
yes,
down, right?
that
Because like you
I
think
fully
about like
agree.
the worst fucking Drake tracks, it's like that Tootsie Slide shit, and
Mm,
like. Listen, I think that there are a few examples. He definitely dabbles with the rage sounds. Uh, but like I agree with Fantana. I don't think he did an awful job with it. Like,
mm.
uh, and the only other thing you can kind of say is him chasing trends is the Sexy Red inclusion, which I don't like. Drake is how I found out about Sexy Red. Like he was legitimately in that camp before anyone else was.
Mm.
Uh, you know, I think he took way too long to capitalize it because ever since she was on Theo Vaughn's podcast, I feel like the vibe for Sexy Red is
It's
plummeting.
been changing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but and I also don't like that song at all. But like,
Well, yeah,
uh,
I don't like the song on there either.
even though I
I
genuinely like Sexy Red, I think Sexy Red has fun songs.
she does have fun songs.
Yeah, like I think like she gets shit for being so vulgar, but at least she knows how to put a fucking track together. You know,
Mm.
like, uh, but yeah, no, I do not think this is Drake chasing trends or being overly trendy. I think it is old Drake in that it felt like he was old Drake felt like he was carving out his lane. This felt like him kind of returning to it. I just wish he did
Mm.
it good.
I mean,
Like
that's one thing I was going to agree with is because I don't sense a lack of effort, which I do appreciate. It seems like he did actually try different things within this album. And I feel like, and this is actually something that Fantano went over as well. I just feel like the biggest threat to Drake's career is the fact that he is as big as he is. There's no one that's really going to stop him from being successful in
Yeah.
the sense of what he's aiming for, which is streams.
Yeah.
Um,
Now the
and
only
that's
enemy he has is time.
yeah, and that's it's however you want to look at it is how you want to look at it. If you want to shame him for it, I understand. If you respect him for it, I understand. But I feel like for me personally going into it, I just needed this to be a return to something more stable. I feel like since the streaming era, because he's so focused on the mass production, it lacks a clear goal. I feel like the last several albums put out by Drake, I have to question who Drake even is, and not even on some deep introspective kind of way, but just in a sense of like, what is he trying to accomplish? Because in my opinion, it's very obvious what Kendrick does and who he serves. It's very obvious for me what J. Cole does and who he serves. Drake doesn't really have that to me at all. Because I feel like in this type of album, I see the effort, but he's so scattered brain in trying to serve so many different things.
Yeah.
It falls apart so quickly. And one of the things that we've been mentioning is the things about trends. I feel like the reason I was calling it trends and it may not be the best word, but I feel like specifically for all the dogs, it is a return of him trying to go to what is known to be Drake. I feel like if you're deep within the Drake fan base, you know if there's a song coming out with A Time in the City, it's probably good. You know if he's dropping an album and one of the singles has Party Next Door, it's probably going to be one of the highlights for R&B. And I feel like there's other places that come into play. Obviously, I'll give him first person shooter because that is something that's longer weighted and you love
Yeah.
that.
And
But
slime you out.
yeah, Inside Out, both
Yeah.
those.
Even though
But
like I don't love slime you out as a track,
mm,
I still think it's a long-awaited collaboration, and I think his singing performance as a singing performance is quite good. I just
yes,
don't think the song comes together as a song.
I I fully agree with that, and I actually was going to touch on that later, specifically when we do a track breakdown, because there's something I noticed in that song as well. But some things that he missed when I feel like he's just trying to follow either the trend or a pattern of what is known to be successful. There's no reason for 21 Savage to be on this album, in
Yeah,
my
more like
opinion.
21 average.
It is literally the most
Yeah,
basic
this is
average
the
21
end. This
Savage.
is the end of his superstar feature run, as far as I'm
Yes,
concerned. Yeah, like
absolutely.
his flawless feature run is at a close.
And I get
Like,
it because they
yeah,
just did a whole album together. So
100%.
why are
Like,
they
it
doing
feels
another single?
totally agree. Totally agree. Like, why do you even? I mean, it makes sense because like they're just close, you know. But
But
it's
like you
like,
just did a whole album's
yeah,
worth with
right,
it's like
yeah. Like, like there's a reason why LP didn't produce anything on Michael, right? Like, you know what I mean?
it just
Like,
makes sense. And that's why
yeah,
Michael's good.
yeah. He produced the
But
one
yeah,
song. Like,
it's when you start tapping into I feel like it's just 21 Savage was bad. Yeet was good, but in reality, it's already getting clowned by like TikTokers and things like that. I
I
just feel
don't
like the
know.
fan
I don't
base
know if it's getting. I
doesn't
think
mix as
Drake is
well.
getting clowned. I don't think the
Drake is getting
song.
clowned.
I don't think the
Yeah,
song is getting clowned.
which is fine. But I feel like to Drake, that's still bad.
Yeah,
And so
I do like those memes though.
it is good.
Yeah, I
It
gotta
is.
say, I really. That's
Why
so.
didn't he pitch himself down?
Yeah.
You can't make it make sense
Oh,
to me.
because he was trying to
There's no
match
way someone
Yeat's.
listened to that and
Yeat
didn't say
probably
I
sent
played
his
this
last verse first. Like,
honestly,
that's the
yes.
thing about me. That's the thing about Yeet is when he sounds like that deep toned badass, I'm like, hell yeah, this sounds dope. But when he starts sounding like a Muppet who stuck a fork in a socket, it's like, no, dude, this is bad. Like, I really hate this. Like,
Those are literally the two sounds of you.
yeah, I know,
It's just-
I know. And I'm gonna be honest with you, like, I agree. I think Yeet is better on that song than Drake is.
It's a Yeet song. Absolutely.
It's a Yeet song. My thing is that like I've gotten a pretty. I am not ignorant to Yeet. I've done a very extensive dive,
Mhm.
and this is by far the best song I've ever heard by Yeet. This is
That's fine.
by
I'm not upset with
country,
that.
country mile. Like,
Okay.
no, not even. I'm not joking at one iota. Like,
That's fair. That's fair.
even though like
To each
I
their own.
agree that he carried the song, even though like I kind of like Drake's verse on it.
Mhm.
I did think that
The
there
the
were
second, the
yeah
latter
no
part.
the first verse. What was it? I'm gonna try and look it up right now. Oh my god. But yeah, no it. But
But
that's the thing. It's just it doesn't have the oomph as even like a certified lover boy.
yeah. And the thing is, the reason I was saying trends is because if you look at some of this stuff, in my opinion, it is very, very focused on hitting TikTok and hitting social media. And that's because you have someone like Yeet who controls anyone under 20. You have Sexy Red, which is the moment right now. You have Chief Keef. You have Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny has no reason to be on this album
No,
in any
except
sense
for the
at
fact.
all.
Yeah, no, you're right. I totally
And
that song is really pathetic. And
it's
it
really
also
bad. And the thing is this, don't get me wrong, I shamed this. I also shamed the one that was on Utopia. I'm going to do the same. So
yeah.
I just feel like throwing in Bad
By
Bunny
the
is
way,
like
the most
so
popular song on
special.
Utopia by a lot.
I know. It's
Yeah,
also like the leading single. I'm not upset and I get it. It works. It's a strategy. It's a formula that will work. If you
Formula.
get Bad Bunny on the song, it's probably gonna trend.
Yeah,
So that's what I meant by following the trends that are known to Drake. You have classic Drake things that you would expect from old Drake, like the time in the city, like a party next door, like a first person shooter. But it's just everything else falls apart from me. And it just doesn't do what I needed it to do.
yeah. No, I agree with that. Uh,
And we rarely go and break down lyrics like that because I just one, it doesn't really flow well in a podcast sense, especially if we don't have a visual up with
yeah,
it.
one
But
hundred
like
percent.
we rarely break down lyrics like that. And I feel like there are very obvious times in the past where I openly admit, as the Drake defender, that like this is a meme song. If you go back to Certified Lover Boy, Way Too Sexy is a meme song.
Yeah,
And you shouldn't, not that you shouldn't, but like in reality, if you look at that song, you're not gonna look at it as like super serious Drake because you
yeah,
know we've seen Drake get serious.
right.
The
But
fact that
but
it's
don't.
serious from his goofing around is it's not a massive jump.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. And it's like it, it really feels hard to like pin down like why he's doing this. Who is this for? Like it seems like the motivation is just to put stuff on streams, but like when you commodify art and you turn it into a product to be consumed, you have to deliver. You know that
Mhm.
when you're an artist, you can get away with going 4, 5, 6 years between albums because they know when you come back, even if it's a Miss Morale and the Big Steppers, yeah, I don't go back to listen to that album all that much, but like I don't bemoan that 5 year wait.
Mhm.
You know?
Especially considering the theme of that album, or the concept of that album, I should say. But yeah, I just feel like saying that because taking into consideration him being super serious Drake, where he's trying hard like old Drake, and him being streaming Drake, where you just need to get the song out there and be catchy enough where people can sing the lyrics with it. It's not a big enough gap. And if you start breaking down what this man is actually saying in the album, is some really bad bars.
There are some really bad bars, but the thing is, there's
Like,
also good bad bars. Yeah, no, the American slavery bars really, really wild.
man,
Also, if we want to talk about someone who like just a piss poor feature, if you ask me, even though this guy is on a pretty hot run,
hmm
is Little Yachty.
yeah,
I've
I
liked
sadly agree.
I've liked the hot run. You know,
He was on a run this
Even J Cole, you texted me the day you heard it, and you were like, J Cole's verse on Secret Recipe is better than this. And you know what? I agree with that. I actually do. I actually don't hate
year.
that. But
But this is a bad bar. This is
just
hard.
not even close, though.
Yeah, the J Cole one is good and it keeps up with this trend. Lil Yachty did not transition over at all. That was bad. Um, I just I don't know. You add up the lyrics and you add up the structure of the songs. You know, I feel like after Sicko Mode, he tried capitalizing on the beat switch because it was such a serious thing in the moment. And I feel like everyone was talking about Sicko Mode because of that beat switch. You just find it too often on every song. It's a beat switch on the majority of these songs, and it makes
Yeah.
the album feel twice as long almost.
It does. It 100% does, especially when the songs aren't working. That's the thing,
It's
right?
not.
Like when the
You have one good verse and then one bad one, and it's like crap. I got to get through this to get to the good verse.
yeah.
It doesn't work for me. And then you have songs like the one with 21 Savage, which already has a bad verse in it. Now you have, and I counted it, it is almost a 3-minute skit
Dude,
in the
that
middle of
skit
the
is
song.
awful. That skit is awful. Dude, first off, oxtails are great. Shut up. Like
The point is to hate the girl. That's why
and
she's
I hate her
annoying.
because she doesn't shit. Jerk
Oh,
chicken and
but that's the thing.
oxtail.
Like, I
Sign me
feel
up.
like it's crazy because the skit is almost unbearable because you want to hate the girl in it, which I feel like it drives the point of the skit. But it should be a skit. I shouldn't have to hear a skit in the middle of the song, and then at the end of the skit, I'm getting an average 21 Savage song on a different beat. It's so
100%.
many
Yeah.
things that come into it where it's like, what is the point? That's the biggest part is like, what is the goal? And it just kind of falls apart for me. I don't know. Um, should we talk about
I
our
think
version of
why don't
that?
we no, why don't we because I think that there is an elephant in the room that we have
Okay,
not addressed. And it is
which is what?
by far like the pinnacle of this album and maybe the best song Drake has released in the streaming era. And that's 8 a.m. in Charlotte.
Oh
I
yeah,
think we have to
absolutely.
take a moment and talk about this because
Okay,
one, like, we're the Griselda guys. So, like, seeing Conducta show up on this and, like,
do we have a problem? I was like, what?
but like here's the thing, right? Like this is a long running series, which I think is spoiler. I think is kind of overrated. I think half the songs are ass. Uh,
Okay.
but like, but I appreciate that they are a series that's like conceptually sound.
Mhm.
I'm not saying it's like awful or anything. I'm just saying like some of them are good, some of them are bad. I'm waiting for them to get real. I'm waiting for fucking like 3 a.m. in the Gaza Strip. Like, but this is this is just moving.
You're not gonna let that
Just
slide.
like, but like, I think this really comes together as like a highlight. I think it's some of his best writing,
Yes.
some of his best delivery. As far as like beat selection goes, I think it's fantastic. And then we knew what Conductor was going to come through with.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Does not miss at all. He don't miss. But yeah, I mean, I fully agree with everything you said. 8 a.m. in Charlotte is probably the best song we've gotten since I don't know. Nothing was the same, maybe? Views, maybe? It's been a while.
I would definitely say nothing was the same because like
Yeah,
I don't get me wrong. I think Drake has had some great songs, but like nothing on Her Loss is like
absolutely not.
no.
Doesn't even hold the weight of it,
Yeah,
period.
maybe Nice for What. Nice for What is probably like the closest for me.
And the other thing is, I feel like because of who Drake is, he I'm not trying to like say, oh, he's got such a deep bag, but there are very clear times where there's rapping Drake and there's satisfying the public Drake or the mass public Drake. And this goes under the actual tree of like this is rapping Drake and him trying very hard, and we don't get a lot of that, so it's not a lot to compare to. But yeah, it's easily in terms of just like rapping, the best he's done in years.
Yeah, and on 8 a.m. in Charlotte. So
Mm.
before we got back to the second half of this review, where we kind of go under the hood and get a little surgical, I wanted to
Mm.
just, I didn't want us to graze past that, right? Because like I thought it was important.
I get that.
Uh,
Yeah,
I am devoted to nothing but the truth.
understandable. But yeah, at some point, because I think I get through this probably twice before Brandon texted me and said he got fully through it because I was waiting for him to finish it. before deciding what route to take.
Yeah.
In terms of what we're going to be doing on the podcast, because in a very rare time, we don't we don't both dislike an album to this degree.
We never,
It
not only to this degree, but in the same way. You know,
yeah,
like in that, like we do like the albums. We do like albums though to the same degree though, pretty frequently.
that's normal. That's why we have a podcast.
Yeah.
But at some point, one of us will find value in
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
We're like, we'll come to some kind of disagreement or something.
Yeah, we always
Um,
do because we're just two different
right,
people.
exactly, and that's how we process music. But I feel like this needed to be adjusted, fixed, and rearranged
Yeah.
because
I think it just needed to be. So here's the thing. Like I liked your decision to do this thing where like we edit the track list because I think
mm,
that is the primary flaw with this album is that it's too long. There's too much filler.
so much skip,
But
so much.
my thing is, I felt like, especially like right after 8 a.m. in Charlotte, like it just craters in quality. I don't
Mm,
think it needed all that much rearranging. I did rearrange it a little bit, and I threw in a little tricky surprise.
you did,
Uh,
you did.
but
But really, it's just cutting, like hard
yeah,
cutting
it's
for you.
hard for me. It's hard cutting. I did switch some stuff around,
Mm,
but yeah, for me it was more just like trimming the fat. I really think that's all it needs, because like there isn't a huge concept here. There's no concept at all. So I think sequencing is still important, but I don't think
mm.
it's as important, if that makes sense. I think it's more about how do you start and how do you finish. And to its credit, I think Virginia Beach is a good opener.
It is. I
I
also
don't think
had
it.
mine with Virginia Beach. But you sorry?
No, I was gonna say like I don't like it as much as like some other people like Virginia Beach, because like
Mm,
one, I also do not understand how anyone heard that and was like, that's Frank Ocean. Like,
really?
yeah, no, I think it was a good use of it. And I think it's super interesting that like the origin story that it has, like that it was a song Frank recorded for Quentin Tarantino that he never used.
Hmm.
So like I think it was interesting, but no, I would not have, and I think it was well used and good, but I just would not have picked that as Frank Ocean.
Have you heard the like original song? Just curious.
No,
I
I
don't
have
know.
no idea what it is.
Oh,
I don't listen to unreleased music because I think it's fucked up. I think it's like, I think it's like very disrespectful to the artist, and that's why I'm always like, I feel to me because I'm a creative person and I consider myself like an artist of some
mm,
kind, right?
in a sense.
I kind of feel like everything I consume is I'm kind of like in dialogue in, because like you don't really choose your influences, and like it's different because like I don't make music, so it's like how much of music is the influence, but it turns out quite a lot. So like
Mm,
I just like I don't want to. I feel like because I'm in dialogue with these artists, I don't want to listen to anything that they wouldn't want me to hear. I feel
okay.
like that's fucked up. And I also feel like if you ask any artist, they'll ask you not to listen to it. So like why, if you genuinely like these people and don't just see them as vehicles for your own entertainment consumption, like why would
Mm.
you?
I guess I just never really looked at it that way or thought about it in that deep of a sense. I would say that.
Well, but then again, is that
Um,
like, it's a piece of someone's soul. Like I think you owe it to them. If you've ever had an emotional reaction to any of their art, I think you
mm,
owe it to them to like seriously think about like all the different ways you interact and interface with them.
I guess that's fair.
You know. Then again, like I have ADHD, so I think about everything 1,000 times more than every single person on the planet. But maybe more people should. Like,
I'll give you that. It's interesting. I had an interesting, or not interesting. I had a different take on Virginia Beach because I did recognize it right away because I've heard the Frank Ocean song as it's been discussed within the community already. As Frank Ocean fans are insane. Um, so I've heard the song already, and I did recognize him immediately. I think it's interesting, at least my take on it. It's interesting that Frank Ocean would have been willing to give him a sample over actually being on the song.
yeah.
And I understand those are two very different commitments.
I actually think like I think like Frank Ocean doesn't even necessarily have to clear it.
Oh, okay, well,
It's whoever has the rights.
all right. Well,
No.
whoever cleared it, it's a very big difference between actually having Frank Ocean on the song, and I, because I am such a Frank Ocean lover and defender, I feel like Drake did okay on the song. But if you're going to use Frank Ocean, possibly against his will, for profit, as the whole album is focused on streams, what better business strategy than to sample one of the biggest names in our generation on an opening track? But how disrespectful, one, to do all of that, but two, not deliver while you're
Yeah.
doing all of
Well, I mean, I don't know, because like here's my thing. I don't think even if like Drake, like as like the lyricist performing on top of that, instrumentation of which the sample is a part of, right? Yeah, I don't think he delivers. But I think that beat on its own delivers.
Oh
So
yeah, the beat. Yeah.
I would not call that disrespectful at all. You know, it's a process. You know, like it wouldn't be cleared if it didn't have permission from the rights holder, and unfortunately, that's just the way it works. I think like it's a stretch to say without their consent. You know, even though like it could be true, but like I think
Could
like,
be.
I just don't think that's something we should assume because like there's nothing to suggest that, right? And also like Frank is massively independent, so like who knows? Maybe him more than anyone else is more likely to have like a touch on that. But yeah, no, it felt like a statement piece of a beat, but not that in terms of a song. And when I heard Virginia Beach, I was like, "Is this gonna push a T-bars?" But I was like, "No, there wasn't."
No, absolutely
This
not.
is
That's not
the
no.
farthest away thing from that.
Yeah, no. The way that I was thinking about it, just because of having the weight of something like a Frank Ocean being a part of your album, made me think of how he did "Don't Matter to Me," where he's literally buying a Michael Jackson verse to throw into Scorpion.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah. And
dude,
I think that song works a lot better. But yeah, no, there's still something very gross about that. 100%.
mm,
Especially like when
um,
it just ends up sounding like The Weeknd because it's not an amazing Michael
it did
Jackson.
just end up sounding like the weekend. You're right.
Yeah. All right. Do we want to go through our edits? We're gonna make sure that these are available as a playlist. So
Yes. Well, we both had the same opener, I believe,
I did
right?
not. I
Virginia
did
Beach.
not. Yeah. 1 second. Let me open it. I do not believe I changed. Yeah. No, I did not. Once again, mine was very lightly reorganized because I mainly just cut off everything after 8 a.m. in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my first one was still Virginia Beach because I do think it's like just a decent opener. I've heard worse. You know,
It is a good opener, yeah.
yeah,
It's not a bad opener in any sense. It's just not what I would want from that kind of expectation. Um, well, should we just go through the full list? Should we go through all of yours first?
Let's go through
How should we
mine.
do it?
Talk about it because mine's probably shorter. I think I cut more,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll talk about yours. Right. So here's mine. Mine starts Virginia Beach, and then Amen. Really decent Tizo touchdown feature, by the way. Right.
He does so much better on features than
Yeah.
man.
I don't know. I liked his album more than this one. Like,
Okay, I guess
I'll
yeah.
give.
Think about it.
The difference is that Drake has whole tracks that are good. Like, but like, there's nothing on this album as good as the last minute of Too Easy. Like,
True, this is true. God,
and I have
thinking like an
Amen.
angel.
And then I have Daylight. I felt like I had to cut I had to cut at least one of the Rage inspired ones. And you know what? I actually liked the cute little Adonis inclusion.
Really?
Yeah, because like he's clearly a part of this whole thing. Like he drew the cover art. He was with his dad on tour while he made this album. Which, by the way, the creator who made that remember the creator who made that five albums for the 50th anniversary of hip hop that we completely ripped off.
Yeah.
In her review of it, she was like, "This is the most recorded on a tour album of all time," and it is 100% true. Like just like the lack of, because here's the thing, like it's not a lack of effort when you go out every night and you perform like to the degree he performed, because like I thought Drake did a really decent job as a live
He
performer.
did have a good team.
Yeah, like I thought, he definitely in my top 5 performances I've seen this year. But like when all your efforts going to that, like there's only so much bandwidth on the human mind.
And it shows. You're right.
And I think it shows. And I think that was a very intelligent insight from her. So shout out that lady. But yeah, no. So I go Daylight because I liked that Adonis thing. And then I thought like, okay, well, why don't we just cut that directly into the Yeet song? I don't give a fuck. Because like I thought that was too good of a song to not include. Then right after that, I thought we would go back to back like stellar features with First Person Shooter, and then Slime You Out. Then after Slime You Out, I would go the Screw the World interlude, which I thought was actually a pretty decent interlude.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because
that's what I did want to talk about.
Because I fucking hated the other interlude, the BBL interlude.
Yeah, no, that was
absolutely I hated that.
Absolute garbage.
And then I did All the Parties. That was the one with Chief Keef. Which also stellar feature.
Very short.
Tried Our Best, Drew a Picasso, and then probably my biggest twist on this was I included Search and Rescue, his single from earlier this year, which I think is better than pretty much most of the songs on this album, save maybe First Person Shooter and 8 a.m. in Charlotte. Yeah. And I thought it also fits the tone of this album and gives it some direction and kind of adds any argument to this being the old Drake, So I thought it was a huge misstep to not include Search and Rescue. And that was a song I did not like initially when it dropped. And then it grew on. Hearing 20,000
You saw it live.
Yeah. Literally.
You were like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, like I get it now. But yeah, so I included Search and Rescue. And then I thought the album should just end at 8 a.m. in Charlotte. First off, I don't know why he just doesn't end with the diary thing. I think almost every single time it probably would have been better to do that. And then that's my take on it. I think Drake just needs to start putting out shorter albums, but he won't because he doesn't care about the quality of the album. He cares about the quality of the streaming numbers. And that's why I think numbers and analytics are the death of art.
Enough. Honestly, I like the way you set yours up. I did like Search and Rescue as an addition. I didn't think about that at all. So when you told me earlier today, I was like, okay, well, honestly, allow it. Like it fits better than most songs here. I'm curious though, and this is just me. I hate chopped and screwed anything.
That's because you're a psychopath.
It just the original normally sounds better to me. Is this good chopped and screwed? Because I couldn't even understand.
This isn't. So first off, here's the thing: if it's an original song, it's not chopped and screwed.
I guess so.
Yeah, like Chopped and Screwed is a remix thing, right? This is definitely, it's a nice little homage to DJ Screw, the guy who made up Chopped and Screwed. And like whether or not you like it is irrelevant to the impact it's had, specifically on Houston. So, yeah. So, yeah, no, I think this is a nice little tribute, and that's why I included it, because like I thought this was a real solid interlude, and the other interlude is literally ass. Like
not at all. It is about ass as well. Yeah, no, it's just not my thing. I've never really gotten into that style of music, so
it
just didn't work for me.
Do yourself a favor.
I listen to lo-fi.
I listen to lo-fi too. There's similar things. You should go.
I know.
You should go to YouTube right now. Right now, not right now. When we're done recording this podcast in probably roughly 20 minutes.
We're getting
there. I would go to YouTube, look up the song Classic Man Chopped and Screwed. It is the best Chopped and Screwed remix of all time because like it is. Yeah. Well, because like there is the argument, and I really hate this fucking argument. I really think anyone who lets this leave their lips is an idiot. But like it is, because here's the thing: it's objectively true that like there are just some songs you don't touch, right?
Huh?
And it's like, yeah, that's why not every song gets remixed, idiot. Tell me the last time you heard of a Chopped and Screwed remix of like For Free. Like,
don't.
Yeah, they don't do I'm Dying of Thirst slowed and reverb remixes. Like they do After Party by Don Toliver because it hits. Like
it does. That one does. But then I'll just go through my list.
We'll do yours because I have a thing I want to yell at you about.
Sure. Knock yourself
Just run
out.
through it, and I'll do it when I get there.
For mine, I wanted to also reorder it, so I did a ton of cutting. I cut full songs, obviously, because there's just some bad songs. Um, I even mentally cut off some things for me. But let me go ahead and go through my list. Starting off, I also did Virginia Beach just to start off. I think it's a great intro. I think it's on par to a normal Drake intro, which is also why I left it as the intro. Going into Daylight, the TikTok you sent me is essentially how I feel about his son's verse. Is it cute? Yes. Does it fit? No,
Yeah.
like at all. Is it good? No, but I mean it's a kid rapping on
I
his
don't know.
dad's
I think
album.
it kind of works.
It's an entire beat switch. It lasts for less than a minute.
Yeah.
You can just go to the next song. I think it is nice and it is cute. I don't think it is hard or fits with the song whose lyrics is him screaming "Shot you in daylight" over and over. But anyway, moving on. I went into Calling for You essentially because I actually do like the concept of the skit. I think the skit does a really good job at making you annoyed of the girl, and I think the skit could fit as an actual interlude skit.
Skip as a skippable skit.
Yes. So I wanted to include specifically the skip, and I do like Drake's verse on it. Moving on to first person shooter. It's self-explanatory. Um, I then included Fear of Heights. You did not include this, which I do understand because you mentioned you only wanted one drill or
Yeah, the rage song. Yeah, I
one
just wanted to
rage
keep
song.
the Adonis one because I feel like the Adonis, even if you don't like it, like it objectively ladders up to any concept that this has. You know,
it does. It does. The reason I included Fear of Heights as well is because I think it is the one beat switch that actually fits in the album. I feel, and I said this earlier today, most of these songs have unnecessary beat switches. It's literally just two songs put together. He was on tour, and it shows. I feel like Fear of Heights is the one actual beat switch that works within the song. So I included that one. I then moved on to Another Late Night. Even though Lil Yachty's verse isn't his best, it does have some good parts to it, and we wouldn't have the music video, which I think is the highlight of everything about For All the Dogs.
I don't know. I think it's worse than every Scorpion music video.
Interesting. I'll have to rewatch
the Nice video. For What video is iconic.
Which one is the Nice for What?
It's the one that's wall to wall with celebrities and he's roller skating. You got like Zoe Saldana and Emily Blunt and cool. Serena Williams.
Oh boy,
yeah,
that came back. And the music later. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, regardless of whatever the other music videos he has, in terms of what re-rank For All the Dogs is definitely a highlight in the overall product.
Yeah.
Leading into IDGAF by Yeet. This is a phenomenal Yeet bar. Drake is getting trolled for his voice and sounding like a nerd. But it's embarrassing because this is a Yeet song, in my opinion. Going into 8 a.m. in Charlotte, we've talked about that plenty. This is where I make a hard shift, and this is why I reorganized the album. I have the front half being literally party anthems and hard rapping. So then people who are just here for streams or whatever, just have something playing in the background or something playing in the club, can get their music, whereas his actual singing, which is something that he is known to specialize in and is sometimes better than his rap music nowadays because the lyrics suck.
Yeah.
I put it in the lighter half for the actual people who want to get through it or get to it, I should say. So I made a hard transition after Slime You Out. Tried Our Best is actually, I think it's a good Drake song. It has a lot of good bars in it. It does enough to satisfy me. And that is the same with Drew Picasso. Both of those back to back, I think.
I thought Drew Picasso was actually pretty decent.
Yeah,
I was like, I think I heard like the first couple bars, which I cannot remember what they were. And I was like, this shit's not going to be good. And then by the end of the song, I was like kind of won over. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about a lot of those songs.
Yeah. Like, Yeah. So is that your run through?
Yeah, so it's Try Your Best, Drew Picasso. I put those back to back because they're similar. Then I did Bahama Promises and Polar Opposites. I put those back to back because they are similar, and those are mostly his singing songs. I would
Yeah.
say that are slower.
Yeah.
I think the quality of his singing is good. I think
The
again,
songs themselves just don't come together.
right. And then I ended it off with Amen, Teasel Touchdown, because Amen ends the prayer or ends a sentence in the Bible. It doesn't make sense how this was not the last song. And why not have Teasel Touchdowns, amazing vocals, be the last thing you sound as you close this off?
Yeah.
So that's fine.
No, that's a great closer.
Yeah.
My only thing is that, like, I can't believe you kept the one with the 3-minute sketch in it.
Yeah. The thing is, I
think that song was ass after. Like, if you completely cut that sketch out, I still think it's one of the worst songs on the project.
That is fair. I'm not upset with that at all.
Yeah. So,
I only liked it for the concept of the skit because it can go somewhere else, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it. And after our cuts, I think we both made it to underneath an hour, underneath 50 minutes. Roughly.
Mine's like 12 songs.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's
Mine
the thing. This shit is just way too fucking long, right?
Yes.
It's the thing you wrote on the thing is actually really great. It says 84-minute runtime. Holy shit. And that's like, how else are you going to describe this?
I never realized how long an hour and a half was. I'm so serious because we've
talked
about
this. It's a short
before.
Movie, but it's a long as fuck album. Like,
ridiculously long. And we talked about how we like to have albums serve as a measure of time. When we go driving, we want Blonde. It's exactly an hour.
Yeah.
Perfect. Drive downtown. This was torturous. Like, getting through all of this music and having to do it several times was one of the very rare times where I went, I have a podcast. I have to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
And I don't do that often.
The responsibility of this does kind of creep in a little bit, but like, it's fine. This is like only the second time it's happened to me.
Right. It doesn't happen very often. And like, we could be complaining about our real jobs. Yeah. We're fine. And we rarely do this, Brandon. We rarely actually discuss negative things about artists just because we like to stay positive.
Yeah, that's kind of our thing.
Right. We don't want to bemoan anyone for their artistic vision.
Yeah, because we're not putting out music.
No, we're not. And we can't. We don't. We're not good enough. Do we want to talk about why some things were rejected?
I want to know where you're going with this. No. Yeah.
What I was going to say in terms of like the reason I rejected certain things, I guess.
It's because they were Satanists.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah. No, because they were appropriated by the church 1,000 years ago and deemed Satanists in order to, alienate cultures that the church didn't like.
Referring to?
We'll move past it for now. Like,
we will bring this on the podcast.
Well, we will bring this on. Like and subscribe if you want the Satanism debate. Like,
ooh, I'm down. It's just certain details that just ultimately fell altogether. Members Only is meant to be a hit. It's a Drake formula, and it's not disrespectful, but it's even more disappointing that it falls off.
Yeah.
Rich Baby Daddy is extremely annoying. I don't care.
Extremely annoying. Yeah.
It's so bad. Gently is disrespectful to Latino culture.
Yeah.
I'll go that far.
Oh, and Italiano Sopranos. No, stop it, Drake. You don't get to be Italian. Go embrace your Jewish half. Like,
it's October 2023.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all I was gonna pretty much talk about. Just like it's interesting looking at certain things that are actually falling off. Did you point out any specific details that you didn't see anywhere else?
My thing is my thing, and one of the creators I enjoy is I completely lost my train of thought. Yeah, no, I just think it's a piss poor album. Oh, it's just like how immature it is. Like, Drake's getting damn near 40.
He's
and
almost
he's complaining about a 25-year-old girl being immature. And it's like, maybe that's your problem, right? Like I bemoan sometimes at work when I have to work with people who are in their early 20s and pretty immature, and it's like, yeah, no, they're immature because you're 11 years older than them, and it's like as Drake matures, like the question of who is his music for, like gets muddier and muddier and muddier because like it used to be Drake made music for like women and like dudes whose like primary goal was like to be perceived favorably by women, which is fine. I think that was the thing Drake got clowned for unfairly. Uh, but now it's like does For All the Dogs strike you as like an album for the audience who went to go see him live, which was 60-70% women? You
No,
know,
not really. No.
honestly, that's why like I give, even though I cut the songs, I don't think it's good. I give like the Sexy Red song, Rich Baby Daddy, like at least a little bit of a pass because like at least that's him catering to his core audience.
Is it good catering though? It's not even a
That,
good
yeah, you're
song.
right. Like if it's not a good song, like it doesn't really. I just mean like as far as like who is he making this for? I think even though it's a bad song, I think Rich Baby Daddy is like, well, this is who he was always making music for. You know, it's just that
Mm,
those songs used to be, Take Care, Passion Fruit, Nice for What, and now they're Rich Baby Daddy.
Jesus. All right. Well, should we give a grade then?
Yeah, I'm definitely into that. You go first.
I will be giving this album a C,
Really?
which is probably the lowest grade I've ever given a Drake album. I personally, for me, because I did like Certified Lover Boy, I just think this is a worse version of it. I see effort, so cool. I see glimpses of actually true quality, something that I would hold on to for a very long time. But it is clouded with garbage. And I think C is very average because it's not like it's damn near unbearable.
Yeah.
If I cut it down, I can handle it. And I'm not going to force myself to listen to like songs I don't want to listen to. So there's no point to even take them into consideration.
Okay. Interesting. I'm going with a D plus. I think this is yeah, I would probably give like Certified Lover Boy a D. I would probably
Mm-hmm.
give Scorpion because of how much I like certain parts of it. I probably would give like a C plus. Views I would probably give like a D. I'd give this a D plus because like I do think it's a little bit more true to who Drake actually is as an artist. And I
Mm-hmm.
think like I do ultimately prefer a lot of moments on it to a lot of his earlier stuff, to a lot of his more recent stuff. But yeah, no, it is to me. You think about D is like what is a D? It's like it's not passing, but it's also not like a total failure, right? It's
Yeah.
like a recoverable failure, right? That's how I would describe this. I think like if this was released in a vacuum, I would describe it as a recoverable failure. I think in the context of Drake's entire career, it kind of looks like he's running out of steam and pretty fast.
It does look like he's running out of steam.
Yeah. So we'll see. New one's coming next year.
He said he's taking a break. Who
Oh
knows?
yeah.
He's going to be too busy fighting Joe Budden.
Which you know what? He wasn't wrong. And we bought professional podcast mics. All right. Do we wanna just go to our recommendations and then log out
Go home.
and
Yeah.
go go home and then
And do whatever.
and wait for the album of the year to drop?
Oh yeah, now that you put it that way. That's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
But the first one is going to be a song from the 80s.
Yeah.
It's going to be a song called I'm Not Ready for Love by Promise. It is an upbeat, feels like Soul Train singing song. So yeah, that's gonna be my first one.
Okay. My next one. Are we doing 3 like we used to?
Oh, I was not ready.
No, I'm not doing 3. I have 2 ready.
Okay.
Uh The one I'm recommending, this is a TikTok song I found on TikTok, but I'm really enjoying these guys. I really enjoy the energy they have. I hope they blow up. I hope they start making like projects, and I hope they get off the ground. It's RN, pronounced right now, with Joey Valence and Bray. It's very much like a throwback to like the early '90s. It's very punchline focused. It almost sounds like the Beastie Boys a little bit, but it's super fun. There's so many references. Uh, like, I hold that steel, feeling like I'm Scizor. Then there's an earthquake. Shout out to Igor. Like, yeah. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Like,
I guess I'll allow it. I did not expect to hear that at all.
yeah.
Okay, but
So it's a fun one. It's a fun one.
Cool. All right. My second one then is actually going to be a UK grime song recently in one of our discords with hella people. Somebody was randomly just like, I want to get into grime. And I'm like, all right, well, let me give you hella artists. But I'm going to do the very famous song within the last year or so, Sprinter by Dave and Central C. It is so good. I have yet to see someone that actually does not enjoy this song. This sounds better than traditional hip hop. So yeah, that's mine.
Okay. My next one is a song that describes my mental state for most of my adult life. Probably the best song on a unquestionable masterpiece, and probably the most loaded song with talent we've ever recommended. I'm recommending "Really Dope" by Danny Brown, Kendrick Lamar, Soul, and Earth Sweatshirt.
Oh, I forgot about that song.
Well, really dope, like really dope.
That's how I found Danny Brown. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Man, I found him on One Train. Remember One Train?
Yeah, that was a moment.
Big crits on that song. People forget because he's last, but
okay.
He's the best one. Shout out Big Crit.
Your promotion.
Shout out Big Crit and Belly.
Okay, just end the podcast.
For all the dogs. Woof, 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 woof.